All right. If you live in a if you live in a glass house, you don't do what? You don't throw stones. It's a pleasant good evening once again to our beautiful listening audience right here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Not forgetting the diasporas right over there throughout the world. And this evening, welcome back to another episode with Real Talk with Lavi. And this is our fifth episode. Tonight I have here in the studio with me none other than Jason, and he's going to be with me, during my time. Yeah. Yeah, pull the mic up. Pull up the mic, yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, thanks.
Make sure you talk loud, Mabo.
Yeah. Yeah, you can talk loud, you know.
Absolutely. Okay. So once again, it's a beautiful Monday. And tonight I have here in the studio with me, his name is
Jason,
and he's from the Federation Newtown, and he's also going to be, I like to say my sidekick, right?
Yeah.
All right, he's no stranger to the studio. So, folks, you're going to be seeing him here with me. Okay, tonight, it's, as I said, it's the fifth episode. And tonight, basically, we have a special guest, and he is already waiting for us to bring him in. But before we do that, it's been a long weekend, and, it's Monday.
Yeah.
Monday, it's kind of like, what, lazy Monday?
Yeah.
Right. What do you think about the weather here in St. Kitts?
Weather is pretty fine right now. Just, it's a cool breeze blowing show.
Yeah, I think, for the folks out there listening, I really feel in the Christmas breeze. It's really nice and breezy. I love the weather.
Yeah.
Today, I spend my day over, I got to pick them up over at Shipwreck. Listen, it's all the way in the peninsula, in the eastern side of the St. Kitts, right?
Yeah.
But what I realize I really like it over there. It's just the vibes. And you know what I like? They don't have, they have the actual sand. So they did not put in no cement, tiles,
nothing artificial.
Nothing artificial. And you see the little kids, the tourists just there. Actually, they're rooting in the sand. I love to see that. Because, we do that as kids.
Yeah.
It's very good for the body as well. So, folks, once again, you're on the Real Talk with lovely, lavish Lavi. Our invited guest will be joining us in the next 5 minutes. So tonight we just here elaborating, and I want to give Mabo a chance. I always call you Mabo.
No, that's no problem.
The Jason thing ain't kicking yet. I told someone, right, that Jason is here, and they was like, Lavi Shower. I don't think you know her, but that's a Facebook fan. Folks out there listening to us, and they was like, I didn't even know it's him, so look at the camera and wave to them. Hi, everybody. Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm excited because our guest is from, he's in the Virgin Islands. And people ask me, Lavi, he from the Virgin Islands. People realize that we are melting pot. The people from St. Kitts have children born in the Virgin Islands, born all over the world. And this is what makes Real Talk so special and so different. Because I really want to use this platform to bring forth the positive out of our people, hoping to influence and inspire, motivate who need the motivation. And this is actually, it's good for me too, This is like where I spend my whole hour just giving it back to society. And Mabo, I know you're not a stranger, and I know, I listen to you, you're a dad.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course.
Right. Folks, tonight is going to be our final episode for the year until we start next year, because, we're going into the Christmas and Carnival season, and our engineers they're busy, Maybe they need another board because maybe, both of us can run the board, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 8:06 tonight. And I want to take some time out to big up the Virgin Islands, the entire triple islands down there, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, not forgetting the BV Islands, the BVI. I want to big up the folks out there in the entire Eastern Caribbean as well, wherever you are and you're hearing us. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to also take time out to say a pleasant good evening to the folks over there in Nevis. Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there, they be listening, and for whatever reason, I think sometimes when we say St. Kitts, we feel at heart that we're talking about Nevis, but they like to hear that.
They like to hear the name as well.
Yes, so big up to what? St. Kitts
and Nevis.
And Nevis. I also have to say a pleasant good evening to Jeffrey Bass down there in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. Mabo, he is a dedicated fan. And Jeffrey, he liked to say, he didn't call my name. I think he's not joking, eh? So sometimes he kind of like, he do it for fun, but he just want us to know that he's listening. I got to say good evening to Miss Kreger. I got to say good evening to, there's so many names. And I also want to take the time out to send, last but not least, condolences to the families up there in St. Peter's, Laverne Morton and Wet Dot.
Yeah, my boy Wet Dot,
Yeah, for the passing. Yes, Warren Bratcher, grandson, is so much, Baragi and Yvonne up there in St. Peter's. You have Sheshe, and when it hit hard, but it should not hit hard because we are related, Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm just hoping, I think right now they probably, after the burial and everything, so many folks will probably be gathered up there in St. Peter's. And I just want to send all the love and strength for that family and also for the other young man that passed away. So Dwight, spiritual, all those that are mourning, Annie, the mother of the other deceased. Yeah. Yes, and, sometimes we tend to just call people that we know, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, we really don't mean anything. Yeah, so you have anything interested to say before we bring our guest in?
No, you can bring him in now.
All right, so we did say we're going to bring him in at 8:10. It is 1 minute before, so we're going to take the time out to let the folks out there know that we want to welcome our invited guest. He is none other than the Lieutenant Governor Chiganza Roach, and he's out of the Virgin Islands. And I just want to take the time out to basically let him know it's an honor to have. Okay. Lieutenant Governor, if you're there, just say hi so we can hear you.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I just wanted to make sure that you're there because, you're joining us via Zoom.
I thought I would be able to see you.
I thought so too. He can see us? Can you see me?
No, I
do you have?
I see an icon for the station.
You see an icon? I think maybe you needed to click on the video, or can you refresh and check again, and check with your camera that way you can see all of us. Okay. Hello.
You can see me, right?
Okay.
Can you see me?
Okay.
Yeah, we can see you. Yeah, we can see you, but you're not. Okay, we see you in preview. We're working on it. We're going to get you in. You got it done? All right. So are you okay to go now, Lieutenant?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, let me just go back over this because, this is real talk. And I want to make sure bring you in properly. As I said, it's an honor to have you here this evening on the Real Talk with Lavi, WINN FM Studios via Zoom. Mr. or Lieutenant Roach, everyone, when they saw the poster, I don't know why people when it comes to job positions, they was like, "Girl, Lavi, what girl, how you do to get he in? this man is very busy, and you can't wrong them. But I want to let the audience know that while I was in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, I went to an event. I think it was a college, the UVI college. They was having their graduation, and I was sitting actually next to the lieutenant. He was not the lieutenant at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, but he and the governor, they was right next towards me, and only one thing that rang in my head. Somebody said he from St. Kitts, but that was it. So, Lieutenant Governor.
Good evening.
Good evening again. First of all, I just got to, can you let the people know where in St. Kitts are you from?
Well, I was born in Sandy Point, St. Kitts, and I have a grandmother from Nevis.
Oh.
She was from Newcastle, and my other grandmother was from Sandy Point. And my two grandfathers, they came to St. Kitts. One came from Montserrat, and the other one came from Dominica. And that would be like in the early 1900s. And those were the days when St. Kitts was a really pivotal point in terms of the movement of people who were migrating out of the Caribbean. And my grandfather from Dominica was actually on the way to Bermuda. So he came to St. Kitts to catch the vessel that was going to take both he and his brother to Bermuda. His brother went on to Bermuda, but my grandfather met my grandmother, Elzeva Garvey, and he never left. And so my Monstratian grandfather, who is the Roach, because everybody who has the name Roach knows that's a Monstrat name, he was an estate manager. So he came from Montserrat, he went to Antigua, then he went to Nevis, and finally settled in St. Kitts, where he remained for the rest of his life. So I'm a little bit of a Kavaloo, but Sandy Point is where I was born. And I was actually born in my grandmother's house
in Sandy Point.
Pedro Street.
So you're a Federation man, family in both St. Kitts and the Nevis.
St. Kitts and Nevis.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, I was just in Nevis in September because my last remaining uncle on my father's side, Bertram Roach, God rest him, he was 2 months shy of 101, and he died in August. So we went up in September for his ceremonies and so forth. But definitely keep in touch with the Federation.
That's very nice, because sometimes some people don't let this position get over their head, and they kind of forget their immediate families and even where they come from. So, that was very good of you. What do you think about that, Mabu?
Yeah, see, him he embedded in the Federation, ties on both islands, and also Montserrat.
Nice. Lieutenant Governor, we are immensely proud of you as a son of the soil, and you're contributing to the economic framework of the Virgin Islands. What is your portfolio as the Lieutenant Governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands?
Well, the Lieutenant Governor of the Virgin Islands is the second in command. So that's probably the most critical part of the role, so that the Organic Act, which is the foundational document for our government, provides that the Lieutenant Governor is the successor to the governor in the event of any incapacity in that office. Aside from that, the Lieutenant Governor has a very specific portfolio, which includes aspects similar to Secretaries of State in the United States, and also responsible for several divisions of the government that have to do with business foundation and real estate transactions, property tax collections, passport issuances. We are the recorder of deeds. We do the registration of corporations and trademarks. So we are the second highest generator of revenue to support the government operations in this territory. So our offices bring in excess of close to 125 million a year in revenue. We're second only to the Bureau of Internal Revenue, which collects the income and corporate taxes, etc. So any transaction that deals with the forming of a business, the forming of a corporation, the registration of a trade name, they must deal with this office, and any recording of a deed, any change in ownership of real property, all of those go through our office. We are also responsible for the assessment of property. So under our division, there's a tax assessor, and we're also responsible for the collection of real property taxes. So that's the Office of the Tax Collector. And we also have the statutory ability to sell property for the non-payment of taxes. And that is guided by several statutes. So it's a very wide-ranging responsibility. We have 3 locations on St. Thomas. We have 5 locations on the island of St. Croix, and 1 location on the island of St. John. So I pretty much move between those offices on a regular basis, although I live on the island of St. Thomas.
Okay.
And I'm serving my 2nd term. We were first elected in 2018 and re-elected in 2022.
All right, so seeing that you have such wide portfolio, I'm going to ask you this, Lieutenant Roach. As you are aware, many people living in the territories come from St. Kitts and Nevis, and many of the other Eastern Caribbean islands. Would your administration be open to bringing in skilled workers from St. Kitts and Nevis and the other islands to help rebuild your territory?
Well, I think the question to that is absolutely yes. However, immigration is not a function of the local government. So if that is to take place, that will involve the federal government as well. So that's not a decision that the local government can make. I will go back a little bit in history just to share. When my parents came to the Virgin Islands, my dad came in 1962. That was his first trip. My mother followed in 1964, and then she returned, and her decision was that she would not return to the Virgin Islands unless she could bring her other 2 children, which I have an older sister and me. We were the ones who stayed with at that time, my 2 grandparents. And then in 1968, the family came reunited. And that was a time when, very similar to now, the Virgin Islands was taken off in its tourism industry. The Hovensa refinery in St. Croix, at that time Hess Oil, was being constructed. And there was a great need for labor in the Virgin Islands. And so the Immigration and Naturalization Service actually had a category of workers. We were then identified at that time as non-immigrant aliens. And that category of worker was really intended to address the labor shortage, never really intended to stay. And the system that was set up at the time really tied you essentially to a job. It was actually called a bond. So you could be in the territory legally so long as you were working for a particular employer who had secured a bond that meant that your presence in the territory was legal and you were gainfully employed. So it was a similar kind of circumstance. And there has been a conversation at the federal level about that. And there also has been a conversation about, several years ago, we had a senator by the name of George Goodwin, and he was from Antigua. And he had this idea about an immigrant visa. I'm sorry, not an immigrant visa, a visiting visa that would allow people from the Eastern Caribbean in particular to come in for shopping, visiting, medical treatment, if the medical treatment we had here, if it met their needs, the care we had available. And that has been a conversation for several years. And now our delegate to Congress has also taken up that idea, which would mean that residents of the Eastern Caribbean countries would be able to come to the territory
For 6 months.
with less red tape. But whether that will occur again in terms of employment is something that will involve the federal government as well. But I think it is clear that the amount of work that we have to do and the money that is available for us to do it means that we're going to need labor. Right now, we've concentrated some efforts in recruiting Virgin Islanders who have moved away because we've been affected by the brain drain, just like St. Kitts and Nevis and other Caribbean countries, where our students have gone to the United States to study and have not returned. So in some cases, we're trying to recruit some of those back. We've been successful in some instances, but there is going to be a greater need for labor than we have at the present moment.
Wow, interested. You know, you did answer this question I'm going to ask you because you said so much. But look, Lieutenant Governor, we heard the VI delegate to the Congress was trying to get a 6 months waiver for the Eastern Caribbean persons to visit the VI for 6 months without a visa. And your administration was in support of it. Any updates on that initiative?
I think it's still at the level of the Congress. I don't believe that it has passed any of the houses of the Congress because, you know, we're in a time where there's also a lot of hostility towards immigrants, and the whole immigration policy is such an incredible divided debate. So, you know, when you have conversations like that, where people in many instances are being emotional, not necessarily rational, not looking at the needs of the country, you have this debate that really frustrates the purposes that you're trying to serve. You know, when you talk about immigration in the United States, a lot of the times people are talking about they're taking jobs from people who are in the country. A lot of the times nobody wants to do those jobs. You know, in the US where Mexicans come to pick fruit so that we could afford, or they, not actually we here in the Virgin Islands, could afford cheaper strawberries or oranges or apples or whatever. A lot of people don't want those jobs. And in many instances, when my parents came to the territory, they did manual labor. My dad was a truck driver. My mom had learned, my grandfather, George Bettel, the one from Dominica, God bless him, insisted that my mother learn to sew. And so my mom came here as a trained seamstress. So she made clothing for people. She made clothing for stores. And when she couldn't do that, she cleaned people's houses as well. And so all of that went into the mix of bringing us to where we are. And immigrants cross that whole spectrum. The country now wants to only address skilled labor, but people are needed in every category.
Wow. How was it for you? I'm asking this to outside of the box. How was it? What age did you leave St. Kitts, and how was it for you when you had to go to the Virgin Islands as a child?
I was 7 years old when my parents told us, when my mom told us that we would be going to St. Thomas the next year, which is in 1968, we were going to go. So all of this conversation, she was preparing us for it because my mom and her mother, with whom we lived, they were very close. My mother was the child before the last. And I happened to have been born in that time period when so many people were leaving St. Kitts. My father's sisters and brothers had gone to England. My mother had sisters who had gone to England as well. And we had I had an uncle and an aunt who went to St. Croix, and an uncle and my mother came to the Virgin Islands. At that time, St. Kitts had a lot of contact with the Virgin Islands because what would happen is they would send stuff back to St. Kitts. They would send us clothing. They would send these boxes that had shoes and cornflakes and toys. and they would send money. And so we knew about this place that our parents were at. But migration for big people is one thing. Migration for little children is quite another thing, because little children aren't thinking about economics. And I had a very happy life in St. Kitts. I mean, we went to mountain with my grandfather, and he planted pineapples and corn and tomatoes and cucumbers and watermelons, all of those things he planted. And we would go with him to help him and then help him bring some of those things back. So my life was happy. I didn't understand anything about why these people were leaving, why they had to go to any other place. And so from a child's perspective, it is an uprooting. Well, I guess from an adult perspective, it's an uprooting too, but they decide that they want to do it. A child just kind of goes along with the decision of its parents or guardians. So I had a very difficult time leaving my grandparents, because when my parents left, they became my parents, and they were wonderful people, two wonderful old people I had the privilege of growing up with. So when we came here, it was very different. We lived in a more metropolitan area. Sandy Point, you could have played in the streets. You could, the parents send you up to the estate to get milk. You could have go any place you wanted to. So it was a little bit more restrictive when I came, number one. And number two, the climate was very different, because there was a resentment that we were here. I remember at the time that there were a series of regulations that the Board of Education imposed that said the children of these non-immigrant aliens could not go to the public schools of the Virgin Islands unless they could establish 5 conditions. And you had to meet all 5 conditions, which included things like you had to show that there was nobody in your home country to supervise you. You had to show that you wouldn't cause a class to exceed its recommended size. You had to be tested. You had to be healthy. The 5th one escapes me right now. So as a result of that, I ended up going to a private school. At that time, I attended the Seventh-day Adventist school. And that too inhibits the assimilation of children, because all of those people who were at that school were either from Anguilla, St. Kitts, Nevis, Dominica, etc.
Yes.
And in 1970, there was a lawsuit brought to the District Court of the Virgin Islands. And it was brought by Legal Services of the Virgin Islands. And their claim was this was an unconstitutional restriction. And the District Court of the Virgin Islands agreed that the children should be allowed into the public schools. And so in 1970, I ended my private school education, and I joined the public schools. And I think that's where my assimilation into the community began, because now I was going to school with children born in the Virgin Islands and children born elsewhere. And I think the fact that I have been elected Lieutenant Governor of the Virgin Islands, and then before that been elected 3 times to the legislature of the Virgin Islands, shows how far we have come as a community. And I think that we have constructed a society that is much more equitable, and is a good example to the United States of what happens when immigration is orderly, by a process, and where people eventually assimilate into the society.
Wow, I went through something similar, because in 1977, I actually went to the 7-day as well, and then eventually I got into the government school. That was Evelyn E. Marcelli, and at the time, junior high school, where was Wayne Aspinall. Someone asked me, they just asked me to ask you, how long did you stay in the private school?
I started private school in the 3rd grade when I came from St. Kitts. I tested, and they put me into the 3rd grade, and I stayed 3rd, 4th, 5th, and I joined the public school for the 6th grade, and then I went to the same WINN Aspinall Junior High School, finished at the Charlotte Amalia High School, and then attended the College of the Virgin Islands initially as well.
And you attended the College of the Virgin Islands. I understand that you taught at the UVI College also
Oh, yeah.
before you got
I-
into.
I'm sorry?
I understand that you was a lecturer there, or you taught there.
Yeah. I joined the faculty in 1999. At that time, my training is in journalism and in law. So at that time, I was teaching in the journalism program. And then I started to teach in the humanities program. And when I was last at the university, my last class was the year I was elected to the legislature. And at that time, I was teaching a graduate course in the Masters of Education program, which is a public education law course for teachers and other administrators who want to become principals of schools. And so this is a course that they learn about discipline, about prayer and the separation in school, issues of curriculum, a whole varied introduction to public school law. And I also taught literature at another time. So a varied kind of background. So I taught on and off from 1999 to 2012.
Wow.
One of the most rewarding experiences I had there is one year we started what was called Junior University. And we selected about 50 boys who were in the 7th grade, around 12, 13, and introduced them to university education. They had the opportunity to stay on the campus. We taught them reading, writing. We taught them a course in brainology, the development of the brain, so that they could understand that their brain was still developing. And so good exercise, good nutrition, rest, no drugs, etc., and how these promoted good brain health. And it really was a turnaround for several of the boys in the program. And that was a very rewarding experience for me, as well as just teaching in the program in general.
Wow. It is 8:33. You're on The Real Talk with Lavi, WINN FM Studios. You're here in the voice of our guest speaker, Lieutenant Governor Chiganzo Roach. Okay, so let me continue and ask you this question. Let me see where it is. Lieutenant Governor, public safety, we notice, is a priority for all countries in the region. We notice in the U.S. mainland, many states like Texas, Illinois, and Colorado have now changed the law to permit green card holders to become police officers. Has the Virgin Islands given any consideration to that?
I'm not 100% sure. I think you can be a police officer here as a permanent resident. I think so.
Yeah, because I asked the question because we have a lot of our nationals, who live in the Virgin Islands and, of course, throughout the Eastern Caribbean, who would love to become police officers but only have a green card holder. So, we sometimes see the possibility of green card holders becoming police officers in the USVI.
It's an interesting question. I know that I became naturalized during law school. It was a big decision for me because I had been a green card holder probably for about
I had
9 years.
I had mine for 10.
10?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably about 9 years
Yeah.
before I decided to do the naturalization process. And I think at that time, the officers of the court, which lawyers are considered officers of the court, you had to take an oath as a citizen to protect and enforce the Constitution. It may be similar to the police officers. It's something I would have to check. I'm not 100% sure.
Someone just messaged me and said that you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to become a police officer in the FBI. But someone just messaged me that.
Yeah,
someone that is listening.
It's more than likely correct because you do take an oath
Right.
swear to protect the Constitution and all of that. I
Right.
don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Okay. In the context of technology and innovation, what steps do you believe are essential to keep the U.S. Virgin Islands as the forefront of progress?
I think it 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 is completely essential to talk about technology and keeping us in the forefront. Right now, we are revolutionizing this government in terms of technology. I sent out a press release just last week that talked about our trademarks module coming online, where you can do trademark searches, you can do record searches, land searches, all kinds of things with this office 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we're getting ready to online our record of deeds function as well. We also are getting ready to online our notary division as well, where you can access all of who are notaries and I'm sorry, that was another division that comes under me that I didn't mention in the beginning.
Oh, wow.
So I think creating an ease of access to the processes of particularly of doing business with the territory, licensing. We are also getting ready to do a reassessment of property in the territory and to have that reflect in the tax, of course, assessment and tax collection features. But I think it's really, really critical to make a kind of seamless experience or platform for people where they can do business with the territory from wherever they are, whether they're in their home here or they are in Nigeria or St. Kitts Nevis or Antigua or Texas. And we are well on the way to that. Of course, when you talk about technology, you also have to talk about a well-trained, skilled workforce. And that is a challenge across this country and really across the world. As the Lieutenant Governor of the Virgin Islands, I belong to a couple of national organizations, and one of them is the National Lieutenant Governors Association, which essentially, not all, but many of the lieutenant governors of the territory belong. And they have each year 3 missions. They do a mission to Israel, a mission to Taiwan, and a mission to Germany. And they select lieutenant governor candidates to attend these missions. And I went on the most recent one to Germany. We were having this exact conversation about skilled labor because Germany is dealing with its workforce migrating to other European countries that are paying higher wages and immigrants coming in from places like Ukraine and some of the Middle Eastern countries as well. So that is a critical conversation for us. And you may know that when I was in the Senate, one of the bills that I was successful in getting passed was a bill that provides tuition-free entrance to our university. And that was meant really as a workforce development piece. The other piece of that is the assembling of a workforce, I'm sorry, a committee that has labor, the university, economic development, our human resources personnel, to talk about what are the workforce needs going forward and whether our institutions are meeting those needs, whether in terms of vocational training or other training. So hand in hand with technology is a qualified workforce. And you also have to be able to pay this qualified workforce salaries that keep them on the job. The other day, we had an employee retire. She had been at our offices 42 years working. That's not going to be the workforce of the future. Young people are not interested in sitting in a job for 42 years or in a division for 42 years or even 30 years or maybe even 15 years. So you have to keep the work interesting and challenging. Professional development is also essential. And I think hand in hand with technology, all of that is important. But technology for me ensures an ease of access that people are not bogged down in um, traveling to offices or waiting in line at offices or having to deal with bureaucratic issues that we can minimize and reduce through effective use of technology. And that is essential going forward.
Wow. All right, it is 8:42. If you're just in tune, welcome to have you. You're on the Real Talk with Lavi. And we're so lucky to have our special invited guest from the Virgin Islands, Lieutenant Governor Chigenzo Roach, ESQ. And Lieutenant, I have two more questions to ask you because you have been giving us a lot of education here, and I'm sure a lot of persons out there are so happy to hear this. So what specific measures do you envision to improve education and healthcare within the U.S. Virgin Islands? I know you're big on education.
Well, one of the things that after we did the free tuition measure, which in its first year increased the applications to our university by something like 2/3, right? They have been battling with decreases in enrollment, but there are several causes, including, excuse me, the vaccination requirement that was implemented during the COVID epidemic, the fact that they don't have majors that some students may want. So they're also dealing with decreased enrollment. We're dealing with decreased population. So after we did the free tuition, then the question, of course, was, what about students who are not going to opt to do the traditional college experience? And so we made it where vocational instruction in any of our skill centers is also free, is also without cost. So that is a significant investment in the workforce. You may know that at this time we are in the process of rebuilding several schools in the territory, and these are going to be state-of-the-art educational institutions when they're completed. We're also having a conversation about, to tie it in with the health component, the university for the last several years has been in the process of establishing a medical school with the idea that doctors and other medical professionals there's a greater chance that they stay in the places where they're educated, particularly if they have opportunities to do their residences there, particularly if they have job opportunities there, that these are the things that kind of keep them, and that the presence of a medical school in your community addresses the needs of your population and brings in medical industry, etc. So like we struggle with having the requisite medical personnel in the territory. We're a small population and our wages do not necessarily compare or compete with the states. Don't get me wrong, some of our wages are higher than some states. We're not behind every state, but we're certainly not offering salaries that could defeat like the highest paid areas. Just a few weeks ago, we had the groundbreaking for the rebuilding of our cancer center in St. Thomas, the Charlotte Kimmelman Center, which it's very unfortunate that we have a high incidence of cancer in the territory, but this was a state-of-the-art facility that up to 2017, before the hurricanes, you could get certain kinds of cancer treatments here, which that ability decreased following the storms, and we're hoping to bring that back. We also have in this country heart disease, which is the leading cause of death among women in the United States. And we had a cardiac center at the Wang Louis Hospital on St. Croix. The plan is to bring that back. We are on the verge of having 2 state-of-the-art hospitals in the St. Thomas and the St. Croix, St. Thomas St. John District 1 and the St. Croix District the other, and the uplifting of the clinic that serves the residents of St. John, the smallest island, smallest population. But I believe that I've always supported the medical school. And I believe that if we get that school, we have completed some of the facilities, but the paradigm of medical schools is that you cannot begin to recruit students. You can't offer any programs until you are accredited by the body that accredits medical schools in the United States. Wow. And the university has been pursuing that, and we're hopeful that that will occur. There are 2 facilities that began the core of this medical school. Is a medical simulation center, which is located on the island of St. Croix, that has been built. It was officially open, and it's providing training for people like our emergency medical technicians, and can afford training to entire medical staffs of clinics. It is an implement in tourism, because you can do medical, an entire medical office from Texas or Michigan can come to this simulation center and get professional development. And then the classroom administration building of the medical school is almost fully completed on the island of St. Thomas. And after we cross the hurdle of accreditation, you will see the medical school of the University of the Virgin Islands in our future. We just dedicated broke ground for the building that will house our School of Nursing on the island of St. Croix. We have a very good nursing education program. And of course, we've always supported our students in nursing by providing them full scholarships to attend nursing school.
Lieutenant Governor, I think my sidekick want to ask you a question.
Sure. Yes, Governor. Are there any plans to mitigate the AI technology? As on mainland US, we are seeing people losing jobs to AI technology.
Artificial intelligence, yes, that is a topic of conversation all over the country. And the concern, I think the concern is real, because it extends to many facets of life. You're talking about artificial intelligence with self-operated cars and other vehicles.
For health automation.
Also. Yeah. I think one of the conversations that is important, and we were having that at the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, is who inputs the data, who formats the artificial intelligence, whose biases are included in how artificial intelligence functions and how it affects the lives of real people. And I think we have to be on the vanguard for that. I think we lag behind the United States in terms of, it happens there first and then it trickles down to these territories. So I believe that we will have the benefit of perhaps seeing some of the challenges and issues firsthand with artificial intelligence, and then being able to make more informed decisions about what we want to do here and how that happens here as well.
Okay, it is 8:50. Our program is just an hour. So I have this question, and then I have one last question for you. What legacy do you hope to leave for the Virgin Islands during your time as Lieutenant Governor?
Well, I think the first part is, when I think about legacy, is that we inhabit these offices only for a time, and we hold them for the people who are going to come after us. And that's the first part. When I think about legacy, I want to be a person who conducts myself in a way that is worthy of this office and that preserves the integrity of this office for people who will inhabit it in the years to come. I am very proud of my bill to provide free education to the university. I tell students all the time that when I graduated from high school, I was in a class of probably about 400 people. I was number 7 in that class. Every university I applied to, I was accepted, but I could not get any financial aid because I was not a permanent resident. I didn't have a green card. So the schools were like, if you want to come, fine, but you have to be able to pay. And so here I was, bright. I had done all that I needed to do, and faced the prospect of not being able to go to university. My parents, they were undaunted, and they took me down to the College of the Virgin Islands, and they found somehow, people are talking about finding money, but my two parents, with their limited resources, they found a way to put me through that first year. And then after that first year, the green card came through, and I was able to apply for financial aid for subsequent years, both to complete my bachelor's and then to go on to completing law school. So the idea of making that easier for young people, to make it less burdensome in terms of student debt that they carry into their professional lives, I believe that's a part of a legacy that I want to be proud of. I have had great employment opportunities in the territory. And so I always want to make sure that I help to generate and to do promotional work and professional development and encourage professional development across the territory so that people continue to be able to move. I've never had a boring job. I've never stayed in a job to the point where I am twisting my thumbs like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here, kind of a thing. And I want everybody to have those kinds of opportunities. I want to be a part of making policy that preserves the quality of life for people here, and also that preserves the natural environment. We're in this time of climate change, and climate change is going to have a greater impact on small spaces. We who have generated the least of these toxic gases and fumes, et cetera, and all of the devastation to the world's climate, we who have contributed the least to it will see the worst of it in some instances. We see it in the hurricanes that come more ferocious and more frequently now. But I want to be a part of encouraging a clean environment and to preserve the earth, because it doesn't belong to us, and the resources of it are finite, and they're not for us alone. I do believe that we hold it in trust for those to come before. So those are the things that stay in my mind: quality of life, education, and of course, quality of life includes housing opportunities, people's ability to own a piece of the pie. I'm troubled by the fact that, as the Lieutenant Governor, I see the real estate transactions, I see the values rising, I see the challenges of young people owning anything in this territory becoming less and less possible. So, things like the VI Slice program that we just introduced that provide gap financing for people who are purchasing for the first time. In my office, we're going to be doing a type of foreclosure on real estate auctions instead of real estate auction, because the auctions only make it where the property goes to the highest bidder. But we have a new statute now that says we can foreclose on properties for non-payment of taxes, and we can make those properties available to specific categories of people that include first-time home buyers, disabled, seniors, veterans. And so I look forward to contributing to that as well, because we want to keep our people here who have created this very special culture that we get the privilege of participating in.
This
So
sounded
I intend to continue to work towards those kinds of efforts.
right. This sounded very, very, very good. It is 8:56. We kind of pressing for time, but I want to ask you this last question before we say good evening. Okay, as we look to the future, Lieutenant Governor Roach, what do you see as the catalyst for continuing and strengthening the relationship between the people of the U.S. Virgin Islands and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis?
Well, my brother, he is the only one of us who was born in St. Thomas. He was actually born in St. Thomas when my mother came to meet my dad. And then she brought him back to St. Kitts in 1966 or something like that. Yeah, and then we came in 68. So what he has done is he is in the process, or he did it already, where he got his citizenship and is getting his St. Kitts passport. I think what has come out of this migration is that we have all of these young people who are dual citizens. They're citizens of the Federation and they're citizens of the United States, resident in the Virgin Islands. And I think that's a very, very important reality that's often overlooked. I speak to some of these young people now who want to go to where their father or their mother came from, who want to explore the islands in the Caribbean. So I think that is a very, very important resource. Every now and then we have meetings here. We had a meeting of the police forces of the Caribbean. We've also had conversations about waste management and waste disposal, because we are all small spaces dealing with the same kinds of issues. And, even though I was born in St. Kitts and came to the Virgin Islands and had that experience in the beginning of feeling like an outsider in some ways, my firm belief is that we are all the same people. We are one people. Whether the European colonization is what distinguishes us, those who speak French and those who speak Spanish and those who speak Dutch and those who speak English, but we are essentially, in my opinion, the same people, primarily of African descent. And in these small spaces, we need to recognize that we struggle with the same issues and that together we might forge a way forward to addressing them, whether it's uplifting and improving our medical care, whether it's the way we think about our natural environment, how we think about crime enforcement, law enforcement, as we have all of these porous borders around us, the whole idea of movement between these islands and making it easier. Unfortunately, those of us who still have a colonial status cannot make some of these decisions about who comes and who goes, but to those who can, it's imperative that we do. Even the discussion about a common currency is important, and the transportation between these islands is of paramount importance. And not too long ago, I had to go to Miami to get to Nevis, and some, I think, Caribbean Airways just started to the BVI, Cape Air just started its flight. Well, not just, but you know what I mean. In a very short span, it's a route to Nevis from St. Thomas. I think they're looking to expand that. And I had the opportunity to be in Grenada and had a conversation with some heads of governments there about the same issue of how do we improve transportation possibilities for the people of the region. And that I think we have to work on as well. We just have our new flights coming in from the Dominican Republic. And we just had a new airline for inter-island transportation here. And I really want to see that grow, because I think our people need to be able to engage and interact with each other foremost. And I think out of that, all of these fruits can develop.
All right, it's 1 minute after 9 o'clock. I just couldn't cut you off. So, Lieutenant Governor Roach, I just want to tell you thank you so much. As
Thank you.
son of the soil, we are indeed grateful that a man of your stature has accepted, basically to be here with us. We're grateful that you came, and take this invitation to come on our show and speak to our people, our native, and the matters of regional importance. Thank you so much. But before you
Thank
go,
you.
we would like to offer you the opportunity to say hello to anyone in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, I want to say there was a lady, she deceased now, Dolores John, and she lived right there on the Frigate Bay Road. Her daughter, Donna Keynes, we grew up like sister and brother. They still live there, and that was the place I would stay whenever I would come. So hail up to Donna and Denisha. Denisha is Garvey. And then I want to say hi to my uncle's children in Nevis, Vanessa, Paris. Some of you know her from the Four Seasons. She's the only one who still lives in Nevis. But those two I'd like to hail up. And my cousin Victor, who lives in Bastille as well. He carries the same name as my dad, Victor Roach.
Wow,
Okay,
I
so
know Miss John, Deloise, John, and Marva, all of them.
you know her?
Yeah, I know
Oh,
them
wow.
very well, very, very well.
Oh, she had a shop there in Port Zante.
Yeah, in Port Zante. She used to be in
Yes.
TDC before she went down.
Yes, yes.
Actually, she was down by the Pelican Mall.
Right, she was at the Pelican.
Yeah.
And then she had a silver store right there by close to the market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the
That's-
entrepreneur that I actually grew up on. So, maybe that's how I am, the way how I am, by being able to have people like, Deloise John and
Absolutely.
a hardworking woman.
Yes, she was.
Yes.
Yes, she was. It was very sad when she passed.
Yes.
She loved the soil of St. Kitts. You couldn't say one word about St. Kitts.
Oh,
for her.
yes.
And
Yes.
she always said that, we lived in the same house,
Wow.
She, her children, her husband, my mother and my father, we shared a house. And she
Wow.
always said, whenever these children grow up, I'm going back St. Kitts. And that's what she did.
And she surely did. And she came back St. Kitts and was very famous for her linen,
Oh, yeah,
her
man.
tablecloths
Linen and
and her
gold.
bed sheets and everything.
That's
Her
correct.
jewelry
Linen and
also,
gold.
she had one of the
That's correct.
finest jewelry, and she was
That's correct.
very proud when she sell her things,
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, I
lady.
know her very well, like a family friend. I actually go over by them and everything, so I know all of them.
Well, when you run into them, tell them I said hi.
I
Donna,
surely-
Denisha, Dana, I don't know if Dana is back.
Yes, they all went away
All
from, since I think they're
Yes.
born in the Virgin Islands also.
Some of them were born here, but
Yes.
Donna was born in St. Kitts.
Yes.
Yes.
And did you know Marva?
Oh, yeah, man. Donna, Marva, Aubrey, Jamie.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
man.
one
We
of them
all
are
grew up
passed
together.
away, the police.
Jennifer, yeah.
Yes.
One is in California. Jennifer, I'm forgetting one name now. There's one name I'm forgetting. Joanna.
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 Yeah,
Joanna.
Joanna. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my, it's very, very good. I have so many people just messaging, they're listening, folks down there in the BVI, different places. Even my son just give me a thumbs up.
Nice.
Yeah, young boys, they don't normally listen, but he have the time. I just see a thumbs up just come in. But I
Good,
want to
good.
thank you once again,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Chigenza Roach. I just want to tell you, thank you so much, the people in
Thank
the
you.
Virgin Islands, and, have a pleasant good night, and,
will.
God continue to bless you. We really, really appreciate you being here. I know it's a bit early. I don't know when I'm going to hear from you again, but, I also want to wish you the best for the season.
Oh,
And-
absolutely.
Yeah, we are grateful to have you here. I can't wait because I'm going to go out and boast and tell everybody. I got to, because the fact that you accept this invitation and such, a little, I will call myself, we're just starting off. And you did not
Wonderful.
come on the show when it's big, you took out, you came and that says a lot. In other words, you came outside of your position and you show leadership. And you basically, took the time out to come here, and we really appreciate it. A lot of people did not even know of you, persons, because a lot of people think you have to be in St. Thomas, to know people, but we all a melting pot. And just by you being here, sharing your knowledge, giving back, this says a lot because a lot of people are listening. You help me and to boost, my confidence to let me know that, I am going to continue reaching out to people, whether small, no matter, I'm not looking at positions, but I'm just looking at what persons can bring to the Real Talk here at WINN FM, so we can get the information out and we can, strengthen our generation to be a brighter and more positive, generation going forward.
Well, I'll tell you, I did a book for children, and the publisher went throughout the Caribbean and took books to St. Kitts, took books to Nevis, and then I wrote a second book, and I came to the Washington Archibald High School and did a class with students there talking about writing and why our stories are important and why we need writers in our community and so forth. So, I look forward to doing this work. If you reach one person and you make a difference in their thinking or in their life, then you've been successful.
Well, definitely. And I am going to, now that I have you here, I am going to message you because I would love to see you come back even to be maybe down, as you said, even Sandy Point to going in, because I feel that this is what missing in some of the schools. People get a position. We we vote you guys in, give you all the positions. And I know you all have a hard task. It's very, you guys are busy. You have a lot to deal with. But it's so nice that when you go to school and you hear the governor is here, the lieutenant is here, Yes. So I must say, we actually went over time at 9 o'clock. We were supposed to.
All right.
Oh, but wait.
Don't want you get in trouble now.
Wait, I am not even getting in trouble. Somebody here typing in a question. I thought I was going to sign you out. But let me see if somebody is typing in a question for you. So, wow. I don't blame them. When you have dignitary, you get as much. Let me see what the question is saying. Hold on. I'm going to read it exactly how it said. Ask him if it's possible the VI could become a state.
Well, when I've gone to one of the work that I did at the university, the Virgin Islands is what's called an unincorporated territory of the United States, which the court has said that an unincorporated territory is not on its way to statehood, right? Well, of course, the same status is given to Puerto Rico. Because we live in a situation where our government is structured by an organic act that really is an act of Congress, the United Nations says we are not self-governing. And the United Nations, because the US is a member of it, says that all of these countries should move towards decolonization, which would result in less territories where people don't have the same rights, essentially, as people who live on the mainland. One of the things that people don't recognize here is one of the things that an unincorporated territory means is that the United States Constitution does not automatically apply. And the provisions of the Constitution that apply here are those that are enacted by Congress, specifically to be adhered to in the territory, because Congress has what's called plenary authority over the territories. So the United Nations has said that we, the people of the Virgin Islands, must choose either to be fully integrated into the United States, to become independent from the United States, or to be in free association with the United States or some other entity. Because of that, we had a status referendum back in the 80s. And although it wasn't binding, most of the people at that time chose to keep the same status. I have attended United Nations sessions, seminars where we have discussed the status of the territory. And at some point, we're going to be faced with the issue of status again. Now, the question of status, you'll get me off on this long topic, but I'll blow it up for you. The question of statehood is a tricky one because it is not just a choice of the territory. Congress is who decides who is admitted to the union as a state. And each state has 2 senators in the United States Senate. So we have 100,000 people in our population. The likelihood that we will become a state on par with California and have 2 senators for 100,000 people and 2 senators for 30 million people is extremely unlikely. So at some point, we're going to have to face the question again of status. We also have a congressional authority to enact a constitution for the territory. And we're now talking about a constitutional convention, which I think will be our 6th, if it happens, that creates a government structured by the people of the Virgin Islands.
It is
so it's a complicated question, but it's going to come up again.
Right. It is 9/11. Lieutenant Governor, I have the last question. This is coming in. Somebody said, because it's a follow-up with the question that I asked before. Would it possibly be lumped in with Puerto Rico if Puerto Rico became a state due to small size?
There has been a conversation like that. I personally hope that it does not happen because I would not want the territory to be lumped in with Puerto Rico. We're very different. And of course, Puerto Rico is unified by the fact that it has its own language and it has a very strong Latin culture. And I believe we would get lost in that.
Well, the person that just asked me, that's the same thing they say, they know it's a Spanish.
I wouldn't want that to happen.
They just want to make sure that they ask you because, we don't know when we're going to get you back again. So,
yeah, and I want my position to be on the record too. I don't want to see that happen.
Thank you
Thank you
so much.
Thank you for asking that question.
Listen, they just make sure they text me, right? So me had to looking at my text, my WhatsApp. WhatsApp is like the powerhouse right now.
That's correct.
Yes.
Right.
We actually went over, so you've
been over.
Yeah, more than over. We just listen, we don't get people like you here. But I'm going to message you and see if we could follow up to have you in person, to go back again in the schools. We need it.
No, but I could actually tell you what I'll do is I will be in sync. I think when he makes a year, we're going to do something again. After his death, the first anniversary of his death, I'm probably going to be in sync. It's probably someplace in August of 24. So when I know when I'm coming, I'll let you know and we can plan in advance.
I can bring you here before that. I can get the Prime Minister on top of this and the Minister of Education. You say I won't get myself in trouble, Mabo?
I had a meeting with the Prime Minister last year, I had a meeting with the Prime Minister last year, Dr. Drew.
Oh, nice.
Yes, we sat in his offices and had a really great conversation.
Well,
I met him at I was also in St. Kitts for the Independence celebration the year the Queen died, when it was postponed.
Yes.
It didn't go on Independence Day. They put it in October.
Correct.
And I was there for that. We met, and then subsequently we met at his office. And I also had a great time and great conversation with the Premier of Nevis.
Oh, wow.
Mr.
Brantley.
Adam?
Mr. Brantley.
Mr. Brantley?
Brantley, yes. Brantley.
Wow.
What's his first name?
Mark
Brantley.
I sometimes I don't get his first name mixed up. I want to say Brant. It'll confuse me with Grantley Adams. That's the airport in Barbados.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that, yeah. But Mark Brantley, yeah, man, we actually have some exchanges on WhatsApp because he has relatives living on St. Croix.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's nice. I like the networking. We just, like I said, it's a pleasure having you here. And on the Real Talk, a normal, program, we start out on social media. And here we are trying to do something positive. And it's all about networking.
Yes.
And like I said, this is huge. So far, the Real Talk, we was able to bring on people like C.G. Walwyn.
Good.
Yes. And we also have the national security,
Yeah, advisor.
advisor. Thank you. Yes.
That was last Monday, right?
Yeah, that was last Monday.
Yes, I watched some of that.
Yes, and to be honest, I would love to get some females. Some of them want to come, but I am hoping that as we continue with this, we'll be able to get people of all walks. So I'm not
Yes.
really targeting any particular person, but we're
Yes.
just showing the magnitude of the show, that we're not limiting anyone that wants to come on the show and bring something positive. If we're talking politics or whatever, we want the positive side of it, because at the end of the day, people out there hurting, people want jobs, and we just want to make sure that we can, help to create a platform that persons can learn, and see persons that come from the same places like them, and reach. Look at you, you came from Sandy Point, you came from ordinary people just like anybody else. When you went to St. Thomas, you did say that, you didn't have a green card. You probably was down there on a bond, and you had to go to like a private school. And I know about that because I also went to St. Thomas when I was 7 years old, and I had to go into the private school. And it's amazing, right, that private school means something good, but for me it was like a stigma at that time, because it's pure island people. They call, that's what happened back then, in the 70s and maybe before in St. Thomas, because when you hear that you've gone to private school, you didn't just go on there because you want to go. You could not, you did not allow in the government school. They calling you alien, and it had a point when people asking me, I don't know, I sure the lieutenant can relate to this, when they was like, my son, I am on Banya, and my son, that's a Garrett, that's an alien. I ain't want him make it himself, I Banya, my son. Because you don't want to get that bullying and that stigma. Now I can proudly boast, and other persons down in St. Thomas can boast, they come from Dominica, St. Lucia, whatever, and just, feel proud to know that we are part of that whole, magnitude, making up the Caribbean, making up the Virgin Islands and the United States.
I think one of the things that we have to be careful about, though, is we have to be careful that we understand where behaviors come from.
Yes.
And I remember I went to St. Kitts I was in St. Kitts for independence. I was working for the newspaper here at the time, and they sent me to cover the independence celebrations in St. Kitts. So I was actually there when the St. Kitts flag went up and the Union Jack came down for the last time in the ceremonies at Warner Park. I was also in St. Kitts when St. Kitts for the first time began to import labor to deal with the sugarcane before it stopped sugarcane as an industry. And I remember walking in that Sandy Point, and a Jamaican was on the opposite side of the street, and a woman from St. Kitts saying, I wonder when people going back to Jamaica. So it happens in these spaces, and we have to understand the people who we meet there. So when I came here, Virgin Islanders were being overrun by immigration. There was so many people. At one time, they said 19% of the population could identify St. Kitts as either a place of birth for them or for their parents. And what I tried to do in order to understand and to be a part of this community is to really appreciate what was happening to the Virgin Islanders at that time. And I can say that in small communities, anywhere, you might have had some of the same reactions to all of these outsiders coming in at the same time. I think we've come remarkably far in terms of where we are as a society that reflects all of these different influences now. And it is actually a great thing that we can be here and somebody could cook us the callaloo that they make in Trinidad, and somebody from St. Kitts can bring in the corn pork, and somebody else can do the black pudding, and we just have the best from each of these places. So I think I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I just want to contribute to that, although I always value my beginnings. St. Kitts set the foundation, for both my education, my value system, etc. And I have just benefited from the best of both societies.
Wow, Mabo, Jason, where are we going to find such high profile that literally took the time out to be here? We went over our time.
Sonano.
Thank you, man. It's 9:20.
It's
According to my-
9:20. I'm gonna
You're
let
gonna
you
get
go,
thrown
but
off the
I,
air.
I know, but I also want to say, Eduardo is listening. CG Walwin is listening.
Mhm. All right. Well, I want to thank you. And you said the best of the season. I actually left the office today, went to Frenchtown for the lighting of the Christmas tree, and came back to do your show. So I'm
Wow.
getting ready now to head out. And tomorrow we have a meeting of the governor's cabinet. So I kind of have to be ready for that. So I want to thank you so much. And with your co-host name, I still didn't see a soul on this camera. I don't even and to Mr. What's your Mr. co-host? I
My
miss
name
you,
is Marvin, but also known as
Marvin.
Jason. Yeah,
What's your last name? You could be related to me.
Dolphin. Last name is Dolphin.
Bastian?
No, Dolphin.
Oh,
Marvin.
Dolphin.
Yeah, Marvin
I know some
Dolphin.
dolphins here in St. Thomas. You had any relatives who came
Yes,
to St. Thomas?
of course, of course.
Yeah, man, I knew some dolphins. They lived some in St. Croix and some in St. Thomas. One worked for a long time at a jewelry store on Main Street. I think it was Cardo.
Also have some
I think
family
he
in St.
passed
Thomas.
recently.
Also have some family in St. Thomas as well, but they carry Herbert.
Herbert. Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. I know some Herberts. Vida, you know that name?
Yeah,
Vida
of course, yeah.
Yeah. I know some
And Lieutenant Roach, just in case when you come back to St. Kitts, come to WINN FM and ask to speak to Jamster. That's the man
Okay.
behind all the engineer. He put in his hand on his head, but he I caught him off guard, right? He's the one that
Yeah.
control everything.
Okay, excellent.
Yes. Networking up in here, like I said, we don't know when we're gonna meet people like you again. So we just got to take it. Wait, Mabo, I think we did well.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much and have a wonderful
Thank you.
evening.
Y'all have a great evening.
Okay, you
Yeah,
too.
same to you.
Thank you. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Wow. It is 9:23. Mabo, I think we're going to have maybe another 5 minutes before, or 10 minutes before he chores out of in here. He's in a good mood. Folks, this is a Real Talk with Lavi right here in WINN FM Studios. It's 9:23. And this is going to be our final, well, not final, but
For 2023.
for 2023. And I think we end on a great note.
Of course.
Yes, I was looking forward for next week so we can bring down the season, the carnival, and let people know what's happening. But
Next Monday, the Heart of Carnival.
yes, it's a Heart of Carnival, and there's a lot of things going to be happening. So, I think for the new year, we're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
So you want to have any final thing to say? What did you got out of this with the lieutenant? Governor.
It was very, very, very informative. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you, we already asked him about the visa waiver.
Yeah.
Because I read it on Facebook a
Yes.
few months ago.
Listen, you see why we ain't supposed to judge people? Because look at you don't, and I never even exchange my questions that I have, and look at you. You're doing your reading and your research. What I walk away with the lieutenant, he's well-rounded, and you realize he talk about his grandparents and that kind of thing. So he grew up in that, what you call it, immediate and extended family, and, went to St. Thomas in different schools, and he went to college. He said it was tough. He didn't get
Education, key to success.
Yes, and he didn't get any free.
If you hand out to work for them. Yeah.
No, he had to.
Everything was earned.
Yes, because he was not a U.S. citizen at the time. But you realize that he said that he made sure that he made the free tuition
For
for the college, for a person that want to go to college.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
That will go down on his legacy.
Yes, and hopefully we're gonna see him up here. He already committed and said hopefully when he up here next year, August, I'm hoping that he will come here before, because, as you said, the Prime Minister, it's all about networking,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, folks, my name is Laverne Davis. I am from St. Peter's Parish. And I just want to let you guys know, wherever you are, thank you so much for tuning in. This is not an easy job. It might seem easy, and everybody sometimes expect me to speak a particular kind of way, but sometimes, I mean, it's not as easy to just be here, you know, talking, especially when you ain't got people around you like that. So, you know, just bear with us. We're going to get better, you know. It's all about positivity on the Real Talk with lovely, lavish Lavi and
Jason.
Jason.
And we're out.
We're out.